This story takes place in the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in 1991. At that time I was still in elementary school. This story I got from a witness who experienced firsthand, because at that time it was quite excited news of this incident in the environment where I live. It happened a long time ago, but the memory of it never left my mind. At that time I lived with my parents in an official house located right next to the office. Both my parents worked in a post office mail delivery service and so forth. The official house that I lived in was arguably new house at that time. The condition was quite beautiful and comfortable. A few steps behind my house there was the head office's official house. The house was quite large with typical house-style architecture in the past. The house is inhabited by the head office named Lack Dave, along with his family, plus one assistant housekeeper. The house is very classic, still looks original without any change from the initial form of the house was built, only plus an iron fence, bathroom and kitchen space in widened, and the back of the house there is a large yard, and a large tree that even now I never know what the name of the tree species, which must be the tree is quite large and lush leaves. It is said that the house was once inhabited by a military officer from America. Who knows who and what rank is still a question mark. He lives there with his wife and 7-year-old daughter. It was Monday. The head of the office, named Mr. Dave, with his family will go out of town because there are family affairs, and he said he would go for 4 days, as long as he was out of town. He asked 2 office cleaning service people to paint and repair several rooms in his house and at the same time keep the house as long as Mr. Dave out of town. When 2 people cleaning service is sleeping in a position near the kitchen facing directly to the living room, around 2 p.m., one of them woke up because he heard something. It turned out that the sound came from someone's shoe steps. Half conscious he tried to find where the sound came from, and suddenly he was surprised to find that in the living room there was a tall, well-built person dressed in American military paced the living room. Shocked not playing, then the cleaning service tried to wake his friend, but all the bodies felt stiff, even for just shouting himself unable. After starting to feel calm the cleaning service was back to sleep until he woke up in the morning. On the following night, the time showed at 8 p.m., they were both still cool chatting while drinking coffee at home, suddenly heard the sound of a violin that came from nowhere. Then the 2 men tried to find the source of the violin, but not long the sound was gone. Because of the confusion, they finally decided to go into the house and sleep. At 11 p.m., the sound of the violin came back, and this time quite loud. Without thinking the second cleaning service and even then immediately looking for where the sound came from, it turns out the sound of the violin from the wall behind the kitchen that has long been unused, whose position is right behind the house near the big tree. They decided to continue their search tomorrow. In the morning, the 2 curious cleaning services tried to dismantle the wall in the old and used kitchen, and they were surprised by the discovery of an ancient violin in poor condition and full of dust. Strange and curious, why is there an ancient violin there? With full of unanswered questions they thought they would report it to the head office so they could be sure whose violin it was. Again at 11 o'clock at night they both woke up because there was a noise that was quite disturbing, namely the vague sound of singing from a small child. Still in a semi-conscious state they tried to guess where the sound came from. Suddenly a terrifying figure appeared from the master bedroom. Yes, the creepy figure said, "Where is my violin?" With great fear these 2 cleaning services tried to run, but the legs felt completely unable to move. Their mouths were stiff and both could only pray. After their bodies could be in motion, the 2 cleaning service decided to leave the house of Mr. Dave and return tomorrow morning. Long story short, the next morning came the car of the head office with the family who had just returned from out of town, the second cleaning service, and then told the scary experience in the house. Still in a position of disbelief, the head of the office tried to find information to some elders in the area, and it turned out, according to elders who understand about the house, It is said that previously in 1930 the house was inhabited by a fairly respected and very friendly American military officer. He has one wife and a daughter named Eileen Rosalie. Her daughter named Eileen is known to be very fond of playing the violin. When there is a banquet with village devices and others, usually Eileen likes to show off in front of the guests. Eileen is an active and sociable child. She is very sociable and lively. In the 1930s, in the middle of the night unexpectedly there was a robbery by several groups of people who use face coverings to the official's house. Four guards of the house were killed sadistically using sharp weapons. Because he heard the commotion outside the house, the owner of the house immediately told his wife to hide. Then the wife took Eileen and told her to hide in a special place that has been prepared, namely a special room hidden behind a thick wall behind the kitchen. After Eileen felt safe, then the wife returned to the house, but it turned out that the robbers were already in the house and her husband was killed with his head separated from the body, and finally the wife was killed by the robbers in a very sadistic way. Meanwhile, Eileen, alone locked in a hiding room, eventually died due to lack of air. Eileen's body was only found and evacuated 20 years later after the incident, and even then accidentally during the renovation process of the house.